Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to give you sort of my review and first impressions of Psychic Awakening Ritual of the Damned. So I'm going to have a look at various aspects of the book. Obviously the main things are the new rules, which is obviously looking at Dark Angels, Grey Knights and Thousand Suns. Just to let you know sort of the highlights I've seen of it, a bit more detail on them, and just give you sort of an impression of them. So let's begin with, I always like to say, you know, the first part of the book is sort of the narrative. Now, once again, I'm not going to speak about the narrative about this one, though I think I might have a lot to say about the narrative when it comes to Psychic Awakening towards the end. I've got a lot of opinions on that one, but I'll wait till we sort of get towards the end before I maybe do a video looking at Psychic Awakening on a whole. But essentially you do get like more of a sense of feeling of the characters and what the factions have been up to. Certainly this one expands a lot from what happened in, I think it was the Wrath of Magnus back quite a few years back when Magnus was first introduced back again as a model to 40k. So, you know, there's a lot of things that go in on this one. I would say not as much gets resolved as you'd expect, but it does show that Magnus does have many schemes on the go. He's got obviously big ones going, but he's always scheming, and that's a good thing. I think Magnus should always be having schemes of things that are going on, which is fine. There is an interesting thing that at the end they've got like reports, and it gives you sort of idea of what's else going on in the galaxy and the universe in general, and the Emperor's Children one is quite interesting. I won't say what it is, I'll let people have a read of it, but it's a very short segment, like it's only like a paragraph, but what are the Emperor's Children up to is a very, very interesting one, because everyone is screaming, where is a certain demon Primarch? I won't say which one, but you know, essentially what's the plans for the Emperor's Children? There's been many hints in different codexes, and it's just very interesting to talk on that one. So the first up, let's go into Dark Angels. Why not? They are the first ones in the book. This is almost like a copy and paste of the Blood Angels one from Blood of Baal. Format is slightly changed, and they've put them in different bits just to make it, I think, make more sense. But essentially, it's got, you know, your sort of your abilities page. This simply lays out the Angels of Death, the Bolter Discipline, combat doctrines, etc. We all know this is just like sort of bookkeeping, pretty much same as Blood of Baal. Simple page, and it just updates everything to keep you right. You know, essentially this is sort of to go, you don't really need the Space Marine book because, you know, you've got all the Dark Angel updates in here, I believe. But most people probably already have the Space Marine book if they've already got Dark Angels, just to keep them right. But this should mean that you should hopefully not need the Space Marine book for stuff. So that's very handy, just to be very clear, here is the new abilities for Dark Angels, though Bolter Discipline has actually been around for a while. After that we have data sheets. This is, the first thing you get is like update to weapons. Now this is like your Demolisher Cannon, getting a straight heavy D6 shots instead of, I think it was heavy D3 unless they shoot at units of 10 or more. Fine, just keeping everything right. We have 18 data sheets, one less I believe than Blood Angels. By the end of the day, this is mainly, again, bookkeeping. There is Master Lazarus, there's Interrogator Chaplain, Chaplains, Primaris Chaplain, Interrogator Chaplain, Master and Phobos Armor, etc, etc, Infiltrators and Cursors, Eliminator Squad. All the units that are basically not in the Dark Angel Codex, they are now in this part as well, so it's an update on it. Just to keep up with, you know, sort of like the updates to Shadow Spear and Chaplains, etc. So, you know, however, there is obviously the new HQ, Master Lazarus, and I feel I should speak about that one in a bit more detail. To give you an idea of his stats, movement 6, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2, strength, toughness 4, 6 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 9, 3 up save. Armed bolt pistol, Enmity's Edge, frag and crack grenades. Enmity's Blade's melee weapon that gives him +2 strength, so strength 6, -4 AP, so shredding through armour, and D3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon against Psychers, you can reroll the wound and damage rolls. This is obviously very narrative to Master Lazarus's hate for Psychers, because Thousand Suns really did a bit of a number on him. He has the Spirit Shield Head, Helm, Iron Halo, Rites of Battle, and Interactable Intractable Will. To give you an idea, Spirit Shield Helm, when a model in a friendly Dark Angels unit within 6 inches of this model would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6, adding 1 to result if the model that would lose a wound, if this is the model that would lose a wound. On a 5+, that wound is not lost, so 6-inch order there. And Interactable Will, when this model is destroyed within 1 inch of an enemy unit, it can immediately fight as if it was the fighting phase before being removed from play. This ability is not cumulative with Astra's Banner ability, or only in Death Does Duty End stratagem. So I have to say, I am not impressed in some ways. I think he was marked as a duelist, and sure, he does okay, but he's really designed to sort of take down psychers with his weapon, which is sort of very fluffy. But he'll still not match even close to the likes, I imagine, of Thunderhammer Storm Shields. They simply have better mobility, strength, defense, and damage. The only thing he probably has is that he hits a bit easier because he's 2 up there versus 3 up, but still. He does have a boost against psychers to reroll wounded damage, but it's simply not enough. Other rules that help is the interactable will. If you die, you can fight again. Not the most ideal because, you know, to achieve it, you've got to die, and to get the most out of it, you probably want to, well, I mean, essentially you die and you get it, so it's not ideal. I don't like abilities like that. They're generally not the best because you are going to lose something in the end. But we also have the Spirit Shield Helm, and this is a bit better. It is a 6-inch aura that grants a 5-up, ignore wounds models around him, ignore mortal wounds, and a 4-up on Lazarus. This is okay. I feel it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. You know, thematically it makes sense against psychers, but it'd be nice to give him a 5-up, just ignore wounds. That would really make him really, really good. But when it's just mortal wounds, it's kind of a bit of a tricky situation there. I could be wrong in this next part. He's also the first model. There might be 1 or 2 other models, but I think it's the first model that allows a 4-up ignore mortal wounds. Don't quote me on him being the first on that one. I think it is. This is important as I think GW, Games Workshop, did everything they could to avoid this at all costs to begin with. They certainly didn't make it easy or even possible. I think for Death Guard to get it, the closest they got was their Surgeon, which allowed them to reroll 1s, which really, when they did their 5-up ignore, which really wasn't that great. But with damage these days, it's not so much, it's not so bad in some minds. Either way, it's a 3-up save, 4-up invul from his Iron Halo, and 4-up against mortal wounds. Makes him overall quite a difficult character to bring down. I don't know how people are going to field. Overall, I think probably not a bad backfield buffer and defender. He'll be a pain to take down. I would say he's worth his points, but here is the kicker. And this is funny on this one. Looking in this book, and I think it's almost the complete Dark Angels points on it. And again, don't quote me on this, but his points aren't in the book, I can see. There is a section here for everything. It's 3 pages long of points. And there is named characters: Asmodai, Azariel, Belial, Ezekiel, Samiel and Sableclaw, Samuel on Corvex. But I don't see Master Lazarus when he should be in named characters. Like I don't see him in HQ either. There's a lot of masters there, but I don't see him. He's not there. I think, quite frankly, someone may have copied and pasted chapter approved, and that's not a good thing. The one new model, because Grey Knight's 1,000 Suns did not get one, and I think it was fine for 1,000 Suns. They can do with a few new things. They need a few new things. I don't think you're going to get that in Psychic Awakening, but Grey Knights could have probably done with like a new named character updated. That would be nice. But the only new model, and I don't see the points. That's going to get FAQ'd or Ratador added, but yeah, that's a tricky one. If someone can point out where it is, then I'd be glad, but I can't see his points. Yeah, I feel that there really need to be some new, right, so this is going into like sort of generally Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves in general. I think there needs to really, and I'm going to say this when Space Wolves come up as well, because I'm pretty sure I said Blood Angels, I feel there really needs to be some new Primaris units to give them more of a feeling. If you take a pure Primaris army of Dark Angels, it just feels like another Space Marine army in a different colour, it might as well be Iron Hands or anything. There's nothing that they're iconic units in them. They need to have some of those Primaris, which people will fight me on, but fair enough, it's just an opinion, and Justin HQ won't do it. The Death Company Intercessors really did not work out. It just wasn't as ideal. Quite frankly, they just need sort of like the Death Company Intercessors could have been a lot more different, more dynamic, but it was an easy add, but not ideal. Either way, I think it's okay for now, but we do need a bit of improvement to make these iconic armies, why they get separate codexes, to have their own units as Primaris in some way. They don't need to be the ones before, they can be something new, which would be very interesting, but I just feel they need to happen, especially for, like, you know, all of them, you know, maybe not Wolfen or anything, but something just to give Space Wolves that, you know, maybe in heavy Gravis armor or something designed for charging would be really nice. Death Company Intercessors, you know, Death Company Primaris would be really nice with the chainswords and jumps or something. Would be really, really cool. Though I rarely look, so I'm not biased on Space Marines. I don't play Space Marines very often. I think I played one filmed report with Imperial Fists, and I can't believe I'm really asking for more Space Marine stuff, but I just feel that Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Blood Angels really need these iconic units to make them separated from their codexes in Primaris form, because some people do prefer playing an all Primaris army, and I think it would just add a bit more character. Okay, that's my rant on that one done. It's just a feeling on my part just when looking through the forces. I hope that does happen in the future. Again, many people may disagree with me. I am not a Space Marine player. I'm all about the heretics, but I just think for completeness on these armies objectively, I think it would be really, really nice to see. However, let's talk about the new and good things. So let's talk about the new stuff, abilities, stratagems, etc, etc. So I need to go to these pages just to give myself a bit of a reminder, though I've got a script. Legion rule, as far as I can see, did not change. Blood Angels 1 actually did. They added, I think you got an extra inch when you make a charge, maybe in an advance, I could be wrong with that one. But Grim Resolve, as I can see, it's here, it has not changed, as far as I'm aware. They did get their Dark Angels only rule, if you take a whole army of just Dark Angels, which is called Relentless Hunt. This activates in the Devastator Doctrine, which is good because you begin with that, and increases the range of all Dark Angel heavy and rapid fire ranges by 6 inches, and assault and pistol weapons by 3 inches. Certainly not the best, but I would not argue bad either. You know, Dark Angels, if you take pure Dark Angels, do quite well in ranged. And I think that's fine, just that extra bit of range can help you in situations. It's certainly not the best one out there, but it adds a bit more security, so I like it. I don't think it's game breaking, but it's a nice little incentive, as in the Devastator Doctrine, which makes it easy to achieve. Stratagems, so how many new stratagems did they get? As far as I can tell, it's an almighty 22, which is superb. Now, many of them are pretty much, you know, again, like Blood of Battle, copy and paste from Space Marines. Space Marines, I believe there was 15 Space Marine ones. I won't go over each one of them, but there were 7, as far as I can tell, I'm not a Space Marine player, 7 Dark Angel exclusive ones. And I'll give you very quick highlights on them. So we have High Speed Focus, 1 command point, essentially grants a unit Jink, which is 4-up invul when they shouldn't usually get it, for Ravenwing. Fine, that's okay. Targeted Guidance, 1 command point. Get a land speeder within 12 inches of an enemy. All other units reroll hits against that unit. So I think you select a unit within 12 inches of a land speeder, and all other units get to reroll hits. So we use that to scout ahead, point at it. 1 command point, it allows more secure hitting. Cool. Full Throttle, 1 command point, allows Ravenwing to move again, but can't charge or shoot. And I think they can only advance in either the movement or the second movement with Full Throttle, which is fine. That's okay. That might actually be a Space Marine one, but again, don't quote me. But allows more mobility, board control, excellent. Combined Assault, 2 command points. Deathwing teleport in near Ravenwing Bikers that did not advance, but they can basically deploy 6 inches away from the enemy. You have to deploy, essentially, I think 9 inches away from the Ravenwing with the Deathwing, and you can't be more than closer than 6 inches away from your opponent. Essentially, you know, you're getting 3 inches for 2 command points. That's maybe a little bit heavy on that side. I think it could have been, if you're going to move your Ravenwing that far forward and they can't advance when they do so, maybe it should have been 3 inches. I don't know. Seems a bit heavy for 2 command points. Evasive Assault, 1 command point, 5-up invul in combat, essentially for Ravenwing. So if Ravenwing get into combat, they can be more evasive and get a 5-up invul, which can be nice. Outnumbered, but never outmatched. 1 command point. Deathwing models in a unit get 1 extra attack if more than 10 models in an enemy unit. Fine, you've got a large Deathwing Terminator unit, you can grant quite a few extra attacks for 1 command point, nice. And that's it for the new stratagems, and I think they're quite nice. They're very much aimed towards Ravenwing and Deathwing. And there is a few other things that sort of augment Ravenwing and Deathwing as well, and I'll speak about that a bit later. But, you know, overall, compared to Blood Angels, where I thought there wasn't as many good Blood Angel stratagems, these ones seem a lot better, so I'm actually quite happy with them. If I got any of them wrong in wording, I was just trying to condense it because it's going to be a long video either way. But 7 new stratagems, all of them looking quite not bad. After the stratagems, we have the Obstruction Discipline, which appears to be the same as us. That's bookkeeping. Vanguard Warlord traits, again a bit of bookkeeping, probably seen them all already. After that, we've got Deathwing and Ravenwing Warlord traits, which I believe there's 3 of each of them. You can choose one if your character is a Deathwing Warlord or if it's a Ravenwing Warlord. So Deathwing 1, Lay Low the Mighty, 6-inch aura that allows Deathwing units to reroll wounds in melee against characters or models with 8 wounds. That could be really good if you want to bring down something really heavy. That's actually quite nice. Extra auras are always quite good. Inexorable, pronounced that probably wrong. It essentially gives you the ability that the Warlord is never wounded on a 1, 2, 3, only ever on a 4, 5, 6 if needed. So that's fine. You know, we've seen that a little bit more, especially in the Spaceman Codex. That's happened more and more. And then we've got Watched. Yep, it's just called Watched. Once per battle, auto-deny the witch that succeeds. Does not even need to be in range, and it just succeeds, you know. So once per battle in your opponent's psychic phase, the warlords can attempt to resist 1 psychic power in the same manner as a psyker by taking a Deny the Witch test, even if your warlord is not within 24 inches of any model manifesting psychic power. When taking the Deny the Witch test, do not roll the dice, it automatically passed. That's really good if your opponent's got like Warp Time, Magnus, Cough, we hate psychers. That's a good way to go. No Magnus, stay back. We do not want you moving any closer to us. So against certain armies, it's going to be an interesting one. Name characters, Master Lazarus. If he's your warlord, he has the Brilliant Strategist Warlord trait from Dark Angels. Nice they gave his warlord trait, would have been handy with points. Ravenwing, impeccable mobility. 6-inch aura that lets Ravenwing units ignoring the moving and heavy weapon rule or advancing assault penalties. So that's not bad if you're very mobile Ravenwing units with their warlords, you get a bit of benefits there. Tactical flexible, once per battle, 6-inch aura that grants Ravenwing units a combat doctrine not currently in effect. So obviously if you want to bring them down to the assault one or the tactical one, if they've got rapid fire weapons, then yeah, that's a good way to do it. It's only once per battle though. Outrider, warlord and Ravenwing unit can move 12 inches at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn, can't get within 9 inches of enemies, etc. So we know that's sort of one that's becoming more and more common these days. Next up we have Relics of Caliban. So 2 highlights I've seen here I think are not bad. Maybe other ones people think are actually better. Reliquary of the Repentant. Ravenwing Biker, 3-inch aura that worsens enemy units invulns by 1. Could be good against great against demons. However, you do need to be pretty damn close and in combat essentially. But a 3-inch aura that basically brings down invulns. Bring down invulns can be very, very good because invulns can be a pain. So I think that can be potentially very nice. And Penitent of Remembrance, Deathwing Ancient, gives Deathwing infantry 6-inch 5-up ignore wounds. Is that right? Is it only Deathwing ones? Yeah, Deathwing Ancient only. When a friendly Deathwing infantry model within 6 inches of a model with this reliquary will lose a wound, roll a d6 on a 5+, the wound is not lost. So that's not even mortal ones like Master or Lazarus, that's just straight up. Could be very good Deathwing ones, I think that's actually quite nice. So that could be good if you are playing a very Deathwing heavy army. In fact, 3 of them are Deathwing unit only stuff, and 3 of them are Ravenwing, so all of them are either Deathwing or Ravenwing. Very heavy focus on Deathwing and Ravenwing on this one. Special issue war gear, we have the usual suspects, Adamantium Mantle, I think it's 1, I think that is one. Artificer Armour, Mastercrafted Weapon, Digital Weapons. But we also have another one, another couple that I think are good. Arbiter's Gaze, ignore negative hit modifiers and ballistic skill modifiers, and Overwatch at natural ballistic skill. Rather than on 6s. So I think this would be really good on a Ravenwing Talon Master, because then they've got their like twin heavy bolter, twin assault cannon. Don't quote me on that. It can put out a lot of shots and it's highly mobile. It just means that you can zoom about, you don't suffer about hit modifiers, ballistic skill modifiers, negative ones. There's only negative ones. Negative ones, and you overwatch naturally. That could be making a real pain unit. So for a Ravenwing Talon Master, that could be quite good. Legacies of Battle. Now this is a bit of bookkeeping, though Dark Angels do get their own one, which is Stoic Prosecution. Grants a Dark Angels infantry unit within 6 inches, as long as they did not fall back or advance, they shoot as if stationary. Yeah, okay. Depends on the situation. You know, it just means that more augmented shooting. So that's not bad. That's okay in terms of the licenses. So that's kind of it for Dark Angels. You've got your Dark Angels name generator, which is fun. Your points, won't say stuff on that again. Overall, that's kind of it. Obviously, there is more relics, but this is a nice addition to Dark Angels. I'd have maybe liked something that was a little bit more Ravenwing and Deathwing. I know they've got Warlord traits, relics, etc. But like just like a bonus, if you do like an entire detachment of Deathwing or Ravenwing, then maybe they get a very different rule. They don't get the, was it the Relentless Hunt rule that I mentioned? Yeah, Relentless Hunt. Maybe they get something else if the detachment is just Deathwing or Ravenwing. Just to be like, if you like playing that kind of style, and it would just promote them, I think that would be really nice. But overall, I think it's not bad. The stratagems are good, the warlord traits are interesting, relics are quite good. I would say I'm quite satisfied with that. Next up, we have Grey Knights. So, Grey Knights. And again, fairly similar to Dark Angels. They don't even flesh out the Bold Discipline, Shock Assault or rules. They actually just go refer to the Dark Angels bit and refer to page 34. And I feel it's a little bit lazy in some ways, but again, it does save paper, save space, etc. So I can't argue with that. Maybe I'm just being a bit picky. I'd prefer it to just be purely Grey Knights. Here is all their abilities and stuff. You don't need to refer to Dark Angels. Maybe I'm being picky. But it does save, you know, pages, etc. So, fair enough. One thing they do not get is obviously combat doctrines. Instead, they get their master or masters of the warp. We should have seen this previewed by now a few times, but of course only works if the whole army is Grey Knights, except for servitors. Essentially 4 abilities to choose from. You choose which one begins with at the game, but you can change it with a very, very simple, easy to cast spell, which is excellent. All these augment different aspects of Grey Knights. So Tides of Fury, while this tide is dormant, when resolving an attack made with Nemesis weapon by an infantry model with this ability, you can reroll a wound roll of 1. Fine, I really wish they didn't just make it infantry, but whatever. Tides of Convergence, while this tide is dominant, add 1 to strengthen damage characteristics of all psi weapons that infantry models with this ability are equipped with. Again, it's infantry augmentation, darn it. Tides of Shadow. While this tide is dominant, a unit with this ability receives the benefit of cover to its saving throw, even while it's not entirely on or within terrain features. When resolving an attack made with ranged weapon against a unit with this ability that is entirely on or within terrain, you get -1 to it. Very similar to Ravenwing's new one. I think that's a great ability and it affects everything. Success! It's not just all infantry. And Tide of Escalation, while this tide is dominant when a unit with this ability and the Rites of Banishment ability manifests, the Smite psychic power, and is not resisted, that power inflicts one additional mortal wound on the target. I think that could be quite good. I was once in Demons vs. I think we didn't actually publish a spell report because it went so bad. We played Grey Knights versus Demons of Chaos, and David brought Grey Knights. And I think I killed one Grey Knight model and he obliterated my army. He just smited everything into the ground because it was easy to cast. And if you add that, you know, now 2 mortal wounds to essentially everything, that can be quite good. I'd be intrigued to see how that works. You take small strike teams, all casting smite, 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 smite. and you don't go up with Thousand Sons of Grey Knights when you cast it, that could be quite good. Interesting one. Overall, I am annoyed that, you know, there's so much of a focus on infantry, but they really needed to do something to improve infantry on Grey Knights. Quite frankly, I think what they should have done is give them 2 wounds, but they have the conundrum then of Primaris, etc. Ooh, it's a bit of a difficult one. I just think Grey Knights, if they're elite fighters, they should maybe 2 attacks, 2 wounds. You know, that's problems in other areas. Bit of a downer note on that one, but overall, I think the Master of the Warp is fantastic. It does really, really good to add variable tactics to Grey Knights that they can change through the game, and they can change as the game progresses to what they need to be, similar to combat doctrines. So I think that is actually really nice, very thematic, and works really well. Data sheets, 1 is Chaplain, just to keep it right in terms of lieutenancies, because they've been changed as they have for all Space Marine forces, so you're going to obviously see that when Death Watch and Space Wolves come around. Next up is Stratagems. So new Stratagems and Grey Knights needed them to be honest. They don't have all the Space Marine Primaris ones because that would be a waste of time. So what did they get? They got 16 in total, as far as I can see, 6 Space Marine and 10 Grey Knight ones. Now I've gone into a bit more detail with these ones, just to give you a bit more. So Masters of Combat, 2 command point. When a Grey Knight Paladin is chosen as a target in the fight phase and not previously attacked, each model killed can attack. So when it's killed, it can attack. Interesting one. Do you need to roll when attacking them? And you've activated this one individually, because if you kill a model and then that model kills, you know, like 3 models, do those attacks come off? Say you're fighting like 30 orcs and you kill a paladin, and then he goes, right, I killed 3 orcs. Do those attacks come off? Because technically you resolve attacks individually. I don't know. I could be reading that one wrong. I hope it's really, you know, just a, you know, it says this works until the end of the phase, but I think it sort of resolves immediately when it's destroyed. I don't know. To keep it simple, I would say, you know, just do them all at the end. Your opponent gets all the attacks, then you do your paladin attacks. Rules is written though, it kind of reads off as that, you know, you do your paladin when it dies, and that might strike down units. I don't know. May need to FAQ that one, but it's a good stratagem for 2 command points, you know, because if something really heavy hits those paladins, they can hit pretty hard back. Overwhelming Assault, 1 command point. Nemesis Dread Knight in the fight phase, add 1 to attack, reroll wound rolls of 1 and reroll damage rolls of 1. Really good for 1 command point for Nemesis Dread Knights. I like it. I think that's a really solid one. David does like using his Nemesis Dread Knights, so that's quite good. Dynamic Insertion, 1 command point. And unit coming in from Teleport Strike, this is important. You know, that comes in Teleport Strike, that is the rule. Can set up 3 inches away, not 9 inches away. But they cannot charge that turn. A good ability really towards flamers and grenades. Now, it is not by coming in from reserve, tactical reserves, but by Teleport Strike. The ability means that Deep Strike Stratagem Teleportarium should not work, and I think everyone was talking about, I want to say Purifiers, the ones you can take like 4 flamers. People are like, oh yeah, you can use that. Technically you can't, because it's not Teleport Strike. So I think that might be FAQ to allow them, but I could be wrong in that one. But really that is the best unit for it, is like, you know, you take those squads with the, you know, flamers and you just burn it away. That would be really, really good. Sadly, no. But by the by, in that one, might be FAQ to allow it with the stratagem. We'll see, but it could be nice. There's certain things that could work. Bring Down the Beast, 2 command points. Use this in the Shun phase. Use after a Grey Knight unit who has just targeted a vehicle or monster. Any friendly Grey Knight unit can reroll wounds against that unit. I think it's the shooting phase only. Yeah. So, interesting one for 2 command points. I think it's really good if you see a big creature and you're like, we really need to bring it down, and reroll wounds is always really nice. I don't think Grey Knights get lieutenants. Maybe they have an equivalent that allow them to reroll wound rolls of 1, but I think just rerolling wounds is always very nice. But the one thing is, can you target a unit and not allocate units, allocate shots? You go, I'm going to target that unit, but I'm going to put all my shots into it and then activate stratagem. Like you've got bolters against the knight and you're like, I'll choose this unit to shoot at the knight, but I don't want to put any shots into it. I'm just going to elect it, and then I'm going to activate that stratagem. Tell me if I'm wrong on that one. That one seems a bit cheeky. I could be wrong. But maybe you could just put one load of bolters into it and you're fine, and then you can choose it. I think it's a great ability. It'll add a lot more, I mean, reroll wounds is always fantastic, so good, like it. Powerful Adept, 1 command point, Psyker with Rights of Banishment. Psyker powers get an extra 6 inches. Fine. Fight in the move, 1 command point. Interceptor squads can shoot or charge if they fell back. Fine. Etheric Surge, 1 command point. Once a Psyker has manifested power, they have a 6-inch aura of +1 psychic powers for friendly units. Really good. You cast once, and I think that actually affects the unit itself if they keep casting psychic powers. So it just gives you that more reliability. I think that's really good. Redoubtable Defense, 1 to 2 command points. When a Grey Knight Terminators, yep, Terminators, not just Paladins, are targeted, if 5 models or less, it's 1 command point, otherwise it's 2. Ranged attacks are -1 damage because we hate plasma. So plasma would usually obviously insta-kill Terminators. That's a good way to prevent that. If you're a big unit, it's 2 command points, small units 1. Not bad. Untainted Unbowed, 1 command point. Purifiers get a 4-up invul until the end of the turn. And essentially immune to morale. They don't take a morale test. They automatically pass. Not bad. Many units would love that. This is a great ability. 4-up invul for 1 command point and immune to morale. Really good. Preternatural senses. Yep. 1 command point. Purgation squad firing Overwatch hits on 4s to 6s. So obviously if you charge a Purgation squad, I think they do quite a lot of shots in general. Hitting on 4s is quite good, and it's 1 command point. Not bad. Overall, I think not bad. More likely to be used in many situations. Nice mixture of buffs to help with Terminators. Yeah, generally good. The Nemesis Dread Knight one is good. There's good Terminator ones. There's a couple of good infantry ones. Generally, I think not bad to have all those extra stratagems, which I think Grey Knights badly needed. Psychic abilities, because they got a whole new set, which I think is good, because Thousand Suns had 3, though one of them is technically only demons, so only Demon Prince Magnus and demons use it. So they got like 2. Good that Grey Knights do get their Dominus Discipline. I think Guilliman may have had a part to name in that one, yeah. Either way, this one can only be done with Grey Knight characters. They can, you can't elect that to go on Grey Knight units that are like Brotherhood of Psyker. I think it's only characters that can take it, and they can't mix between that and the Santic one. It can only be if they're a Dominus one, they're only doing Dominus. Good thing is, most of them are pretty good. So we'll go over them because people really want to know, and I'll try and do this quick. Warp Shaping. Warp Shaping has a warp charge of 5. If manifested, select a tide of the warp. That is not dominant. The current dominant tide of the warp is changed to selected one. So that is your psychic ability to change the warp shaping on the go. Fantastic. You can see a backfield unit use a backfield psyker, probably giving like reroll 1s to your range units casting this. Excellent. Armoured Resilience. Armoured Resilience has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one friendly Grey Knight infantry unit within 12 inches of this psyker. Till the start of the next phase. When resolving attack that targets this unit, subtract 1 from wound rolls. Really good. Making it harder to wound is always fantastic, so I really like it. Ethereal Manipulation. Ethereal Manipulation has warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one friendly Grey Knights unit within 6 inches of psyker till the start of the next psychic phase. When resolving attack made by a model in that unit in the shooting phase against a unit that is within half range, you can reroll the hit rolls. Not bad. You've got to be within, I think that one you've got to be within half range, which seems a bit, weird. Why just make it, that unit you reroll wounds, reroll hits. But fine, whatever. Maybe they thought it'd be too powerful, but I think it'd have been fine either way. Edict Imperator has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one friendly Grey Knight unit within 12 inches of psyker. That unit can shoot as if it was the shooting phase, and can then move as if it was the movement phase. It cannot advance part of the move. That unit cannot shoot again this turn or charge this turn. So not bad. I think it's very similar to, is it Fire and Fade? Yeah, Fire and Fade with Elder, where essentially you could fire, then you spend command points to move. So it's not bad. Line of sight blocking can be okay. Inferior Domination. Has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, you gain a command point. Again, another one for a good backfield psyker who's maybe granting like reroll 1s, because I believe they can get 2 spells. I don't know, I'm not a great night player. But if they do get 2 spells, then having warp shaping and inferior domination, really good for the backfield. You just go, I'm going to farm command points, and I'm going to change the tide of the warp as I need. Really, really good. Finally, we have Inner Fire. Inner Fire has a warp charge of 5. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 1 inch of this psyker and roll a number of d6 equal to the result of the psychic test. For each roll of 1, this psyker suffers 1 mortal wound, and for each roll of 3, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. That's a tricky one, because if you take it on like a note, it can only be characters, so you can suffer a lot of mortal wounds if you roll 1s. Unlikely, but 3 up mortal wounds could be really good. So it's a risky one, but you know what? It's a good risky one. I like it. I think it's good. Aggressive characters might really find that quite good. So again, I think the Dominus Discipline really good. There are some defensive ones and augment ones for your Grey Knights. There's ones to work with your force, which is obviously your Tides of Warp and the command point one. Then there's a damage dealing one. Yeah, I like it. I think it's quite good in general. I think that's one of my favourite psychic tables I've seen in a long time. Relics, I'll give you the highlights. So we've got Santic Shard. When a psychic test is taken for a model with this relic, you can reroll the result. Add 1 to the total for psychic test taken for a model with this relic. Remember that, you get rerolls and add 1. That'll be important in the Thousand Sun one. Ognirum Scrolls. Yep. Ognirum Scrolls? Yeah. When resolving an attack made with a Nemesis weapon by a model in a friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of the model with this relic, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. So this is good because it doesn't just affect infantry. Yay! David loves to drop in 3 Dread Knights, usually 1 being a Grand Master, which you can stick on this, and then all their Nemesis weapons, because they will be affected by it, all have a potential to get an extra attack. Potential of good there, I like it. I think it's got good potential. I think that can be quite devastating. Stave of Supremacy. Model with a Nemesis warding stave only. When a psychic test is taken for an enemy model within 18 inches of a model with this relic, the enemy model suffers Perils of the Warp on any roll of a double. I think, could be wrong, Adeptus Sororitas get something like this as well. I think it's a good defensive one if you're facing demons or Thousand Suns. This is a good way to sort of deny them or cause risk when they do psychic abilities. So I think that one is very, very good. Last, we have our Litanies of Purity, which is our new litanies for chaplains for Grey Knights. Litany of Faith. If this litany is inspiring, then when a model in a friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of this model would lose a wound as a result of mortal wounds, roll a d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. So, you know, again, it's a mortal wound defender. Everyone seems to be in these sort of don't lose wounds in mortal, more wounds on 5+. Thousand Suns are really going to need some help there. Word of Power. If this, let's say, inspiring, select 1 friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of this model. When resolving an attack made by a model in this unit with a weapon that has a random damage characteristic, you can reroll the dice when determining the damage inflicted. Again, not bad. Prevents you from having that random damage. That's very, very helpful. Entombment of Guidance. Yep. If this is inspiring, select 1 friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of this model. When resolving an attack made with ranged weapons by a model in that unit, ignore hit modifiers and ballistic skill modifiers. Great way to be more dependable in shooting. Refrain of Convergence. If this, let's say, inspiring, then when a Deny the Witch test is taken for this model, add 3 to the result. That one's not so great. Very meh. You know, I think it's just not great. You only get 1 Deny the Witch with the chaplain, so not great. Resuscitation of Projection. If this, let's say, is inspiring, select 1 friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of the model, add 6 inches to the range characteristic of bolt weapons, side weapons for models in that unit they're equipped with. Extra range, not bad. I think I once faced DJ on a battle and his weapons were not on range Grey Knights, and that would have helped a lot. Invocation of Focus. If this, let's say, is inspiring, select 1 friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of this model. Resolving an attack made by a model in this unit with a nemesis weapon or psi weapon, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon by 1 for that attack. So yeah, it really helps, an aura ability that really improves ranged and I think combat weapons as well. Again, I think that's really good. There's a lot of potential defensive stuff, but mainly a lot of damaging stuff, and a good ones for ranged as well, which I actually prefer litanies to help with. So again, I think Prey not bad. Overall, when it comes to Grey Knight ones, I think they did pretty strong. And then you've got your old points there as well. And interesting enough, I don't think they included the named character. No, unique units. Yeah, they did. Cool. Next up, let's go into Thousand Suns. Last we come to Thousand Suns. This one is fairly different to just about anything we've seen in Psychic Awakening before. And while thematic in a lot of ways, it is a bit of a weakness. It does not give an army-wide buff. That would have been a bit of an advantage, but instead it gives your detachments a certain cult words. This grants all sorcerers in the cult an additional spell. And it also gives you access to a warlord trait and a relic. Named characters do not benefit from this at all, but I don't think they prevent the cult from being in that detachment. This means that you get an extra spell a turn per detachment. After all, that spell can't be cast more than once. That seems a bit costly. And a single option for warlord trait and relic, unless you take multiple detachments. Even with the warlord trait and relic, it can only be obtained by certain cults. If you take Magnus and Armin as your warlord, then essentially you lose the sort of the warlord trait aspect. That's kind of gone. There is a stratagem that obviously allows you to take that, and then you're only really getting that extra psychic ability. Thousand Suns are usually quite expensive detachments. Rubric's expensive, Magnus is expensive, so sometimes you're only getting a few detachments there. This is a tricky one. This is a real tricky one. I think this. Right, I'll maybe voice my opinion on the end of it. No, I'll do it now. I think that's a bit of a mistake. It's relying on you having multiple detachments in your army, which many people do. But with Thousand Suns, I find it a little bit of a tricky one. And whether the actual benefit is actually good for it or not, I don't know. But essentially, the main thing you're actually getting out of it is options. There's loads of them. 9 cults, each of them with a psychic ability, war trait, and a sorcerer's arcana. But the main thing again is just one extra spell that you can cast once. I think compared to Master the Warp and other armor like combat doctrines, which I think this is kind of replacing, is not ideal. It's reliant on you taking multiple detachments, and that punishes people who take like single detachment ones. And if you take Magnus, a huge chunk of your points is kind of not benefiting from it at all. So I don't want to say that I end on negative. Now, when I was trying to review it, I was like, I could go over all the abilities and everything, and it's like a lot of them. It's like 5 pages of wording. So I'm just really going to lay out the highlights of each one. So Call of Prophecy, its highlight is the Sorcerer Arcana ability, which is Pythic Brazier. When a unit within 6 inches of a friendly model with this relic is chosen to shoot or fight with, you can re-roll 1 hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll. Not bad. It's when a unit within 6 inches of a friendly model. So I imagine it's all the units get it, and it's one model like Salamanders. It's not bad, not great, but it's the highlight of that one. Call of Time. Psychic ability Time Flux has warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select 1 friendly Cult of Time infantry within 6 inches of the unit. You can return 1 destroyed model from that unit to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining, placing it in unit coherency. If an unmodified result of the test is 9+, you can instead return D3 destroyed models from that unit to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining, placing them in unit coherency. Not bad, great if you're going to use Scarab Cult, because there's pain sometimes, but again, okay. Sorcerer Arcana for them is not bad either. Hourglass Mantate. The first time a model with this relic is destroyed at the end of the phase, return that model to play with D3 wounds remaining, placing it as close as possible to the previous position and more than 1 inch away from the enemy models. Good on a Demon Prince if it goes down. Would have been lovely on Magnus, but we can't always get what we want. Call of Mutation, I've highlighted all aspects of it, so it must be good. Warp Reality has a warp charge of 6. If manifested, select 1 terrain feature within 18 inches of the Psyker, then select 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of the terrain. Until the start of the next Psyker phase, half the the unit's move characteristics, subtract 1 from advanced and charge rolls. These sort of halving movements are actually really good. It stopped my Sidonia Dragoons massively, Thunderfire Cannons just pelting them and they couldn't move. Sometimes your opponent has a unit that's just going to charge down the battlefield. Well, this can go like, nope, don't want to. You obviously have an increased range if you're like Thousand Suns attachment, so that can be quite good. World trait, Touch of Vicissitude. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a warlord, an unmodified hit roll of 6 inflicts mortal wounds on the target in addition to any other damage. Good with a Demon Prince. Sorcerer Arcana, Exalted Mutation, Sorcerers only. Add 1 strength, toughness, attack characteristic of model with this relic. Why did it say sorcerer only? Demon Prince don't have the sorcerer keyword. Would have been great in a sorcerer. I'd actually say that one would be absolutely fantastic to have a Demon Prince with that. Tragically, no. Gosh darn it, why did you have to be sorcerer only? Cult of Scheming, Psychic Power, Seeded Strategy. Seeded Strategy has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select 1 friendly Cult of Scheming unit of the Psyker. That unit can shoot and charge this turn, even if it fell back. Really good for if you've got a big flaming unit, it was charged, fall back and flame down the unit. That'd be really nice. Sorcerer Arcana, and I can't pronounce this. Chaquithus. There's a lot of commas. Thorum. Yep. Once per battle in any phase, you can use Chaquithor, the relic, if a model with this relic is on the battlefield. If you do, select 1 stratagem till the end of the phase or until after that stratagem is used by that model with this relic, controlling player, whichever comes sooner. Reduce the command points of the cost of that stratagem by 0. Use an expensive stratagem pretty much for free. I think that's quite good. Cult of Magic, Psychic Power, Astral Blast. Has a warp charge of 6. If manifested, the closest enemy unit within 9 inches and visible to the Psyker suffers D3 mortal wounds, and each other unit within 3 inches of the unit suffers 1 of the... each other unit within 3 inches of that unit, the one you targeted, suffers 1 mortal wound. Brotherhood of Sorcerer ability only increases the range of the first part. This could be really nice because if you have, you know, well, I'll probably go on that in a minute to explain this one. Warlord trait, Devastating Sorcery. When this Warlord manifests Psychic Power that inflicts 1 or more mortal wounds on an enemy unit, increase the mortal wound inflicted on that unit by 1, i.e. D3 mortal wounds becomes D3 plus 1. So if you do your Astral Blast and you cause D3 plus mortal wounds, then the other units within them get 2 mortal wounds on them. That's stacking up quite a wee bit. That can be quite nice. It does mean you have to be very close, you know, 9 inches. It's close now, and then you get an extra 6 inches, I believe, so it's 15. Could be quite nice, but it can dish out quite a few mortal wounds if units are close by. Sorcerer Arcana, is that one any good? Yep. Yes, it is. Arcane Focus. When a psychic test is taken for a model with this relic, add 1 to the total. Remember I said, remember that Grey Knight one that allowed you to reroll psychic tests and add 1? All it would be was just adding that reroll for them as well, and it seemed like a little bit of balance. But nope. Call of Knowledge highlight is going to be Psychic Power, Psychic Delve. Psychic Delve has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of Psyker until the start of the next Psychic phase. When resolving an attack made against that unit by a friendly Cult of Knowledge unit, reroll wound rolls of 1. Really good, I always say if you can reroll wounds, fantastic. So, you know, that could be really good. You know, if you've got like, there's certain stratagems that come up this may stack with. There's really good one coming up, so yeah, I think that could be really nice. We'll go into Cult of Change, its highlight, Sorceress Arcana, Capricious Crest. Once per turn, when a psychic test is taken for a model within 18 inches of a model with this relic, you can change the result of the psychic test as follows. If that model is from your army, you can change any roll of 1 to 6. If that model is from your opponent's army, you can change rolls of 6 to 1. You can only do it once per turn, but that means both in your turn and your opponent's turn. So that could be a really good one to sort of help yours and affect your opponents. So that's quite good in many ways. Call of Duplicity. Psychic Power, Sorcerer's Facade. Warp charge of 7. If manifest, select 1 friendly Call of Duplicity unit within 6 inches of Psyker, remove that unit from the battlefield and set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. This unit is treated as having moved. So essentially, jump a unit somewhere, deep strike in, can potentially be very good for controlling the battlefield. Sorcerer's Arcana, Perfidious Tome. At the start of the battle round, roll 1d6 if a model with this relic is on the battlefield. roll of 1, your opponent gets a command point. On a 4+, you gain a command point. So it's a really easy way to get command points. You might give your opponent 1, but in an average game you're probably only going to give them 1. You're probably going to get 3. So weigh up your benefits in that one. Cult of Manipulation, I think I gave them none. The Source Arcana is Sorthus Reflector. It's really long. I'll read it. When a model with this relic is chosen to fight within the fight phase, you can select one enemy infantry model with a leadership characteristic of 9 or less within 1 inch of that model. Select one melee weapon that model is equipped with. Until the end of the phase, the model with this relic is treated as only being equipped with that weapon and can only make attacks against that enemy model's unit. When resolving each of these attacks, you can reroll hit and wound rolls. So that's actually not bad. Nick a very powerful weapon for your opponent and use it for yourself. Obviously they can use it back on you. That could be probably not bad. It's okay. Overall, I gave them one of the weakest ones. So overall, there's going to be combinations that are going to work there. I only said highlights because I could have gone over every single aspect of them, and I did actually write down notes on all of them, but I decided it was a bit of a waste of time because there's some not very good ones. I think it's going to require people to go through them and see what combinations they can get on that one. But more importantly, let's go into stratagems, something I think Thousand Sons really, really needed, and sadly they only got 7. However, this is more in line with how they plan out Chaos. The Chaos part of Faith and Damnation, was it? Yeah, they only got like 7 stratagems per legion, though they got excellent stratagems, and they got excellent warlord traits and excellent relics. Thousand Sons really didn't get that first part landed so well. They were kind of rigid to their detachments. By the way, let's speak about the good ones for Thousand Sons. Magistrate, 1 command point, grants extra warlord trait to a character who is not your warlord. Standard, but always good. Inferno Fusillade, use 1 command point, use a stratagem when a Rubric Marine unit or Scarab Occult Terminator unit from your army is chosen to shoot with in the shooting phase. Till the end of that phase, models in that unit can shoot rapid fire weapons twice if that unit did not move. Scarab Occult, that's going to be dangerous. That's going to be really good. I think that means that each model, if they are like rapid firing, which they should with Terminators, are going to be putting out like 8 shots a model, strength 4 minus 2 AP, 1 damage, add in Veterans of the Long War, add in that ability that allows like reroll wound rolls of 1, whichever one it was. Yeah, it was the Cult of Knowledge, Psychic Delve. Yeah, that could be really, really good. You know, really good way to pummel on a bunch of shots and wounds. I like it. Risen Rubrici, which is 1 command point. Use a stratagem when you set up a Rubric Marine unit from your army during deployment. That unit can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from your any deployment zone and any enemy unit. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. I think if you're going to take a big unit of flaming flaming Rubric Marines, this is almost a given. Pray for first turn and light up whatever unit you find. I think that can really scare off a few people. I look forward to using that one myself because I love the flamer units. Indomitable Foes, 1 command point, use a stratagem when a Rubric Marine unit or Scarab Occult Terminator unit from your army is chosen as a target of an attack. Till the end of the phase, improve the unit's invul save by 1. Big unit of Scarab Occult, add on Weaver of Fate and add on Indomitable Foes and add on Weaver of Fate was a Glamour of Zinj, I want to say. -1 to hit and a 3-up invul. Nice, nice, nice. 1 command point, yep, that could be really, really good. And that's kind of it. The other ones are okay, those are the main highlight ones. So let's go over them in general. That's it for there. They've then got the points for Thousand Sons, etc. on there as well. So let's go over the book in general. Winners, I would say, are Grey Knights. They have good amount of stratagems. Their Master of the Warpath's a lot onto them as well. They've got some not bad relics, etc. Well, they've got some not bad extra stuff in there as well. They badly needed new warlord traits, which they did not get, because I think their warlord traits, as far as I remember, are not good, which is a bit of a shame. But overall, I think they did the best in this book. They certainly need more, like Primaris level wounds would be really, really good for the standard infantry. After all, they're sort of veterans. But overall, I think they came out good. Dark Angels, I think, came out second in terms of a lot of theirs is cleanup in a lot of ways, similar to Blood Angels, but I think they did better in Blood Angels as there's a lot of character towards the relics being better, there's more focus on Deathwing and Ravenwing, and their stratagems were really good. So I think Dark Angels, though they are Space Marine units, so Space Marines did in general get their second codex and they did very, very well in that upgrade. So I think in general they did well. And Thousand Sons, unfortunately, I think were let down in this one. Thematically, it looks really, really cool. I just think executed is not so well. And they could have done with an army-wide buff, which would have been a lot better than maybe the cults were a small bonus. Maybe it should have been an army-wide buff. And the cult thing, I think, would have been better. Because Thousand Sons don't rely on many detachments. I think you can, and there's certainly potential for combinations there. Their stratagems I thought were very, very good. But their combinations of stuff are a little bit trickier because it's a little bit just difficult to pull off. So I think Thousand Sons, in my opinion, came off slightly worse, which is interesting because when I did Faith and Damnation, I forget it, the second one, I gave Chaos came out the clear winners, and then now things have changed around. I'd say they are not the clear winners on this one. So thanks again for watching this review on Ritual of the Damned. Bit of a long one, but I was covering 3 armies in a bit more detail. Let me know what you guys think. Are Dark Angels people happy? Are Grey Knight people happy? Or are Thousand Sons people happy? I'm interested to see what people's combinations they can pull off. I'm really, really delighted to see, you know, a bit more expansion on all the armies and just, you know, giving more options in that one. I think that's really good. So yeah, thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe. Check us out on our social media to see any projects we are working on, as well as Patreon to help support the channel, bring you more content because we absolutely love doing so. And we'll see you again on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.